To News X, we're live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125. Across all our social media handles, we're Joe News on TV. You can watch us live around the world on myjoeonline.com. My name is Faustina Safa. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, more reactions to the Office of the Special Prosecutor investigation into the Airbus saga. Stay with us because we'll be hearing from the governing New Patriotic Party and the former Auditor General, Daniel Dumoluvu.
OSP did a lazy job because you can't conclude by saying that because you don't have the facts at hand, you don't have all the facts at hand, hence you cannot prosecute that case.
Also in this bulletin, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia promises tax incentives if voted into power.
There seems to be an inequity in tolling, and I believe that we should look at broad-based tolling.
Stay will bring you some analysis on that as we see how feasible some of these promises are. We also have business updates coming up within the next 60 minutes. Take a seat, please. Be my guest. Thanks for choosing us. We're your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Now we'll start with the governing New Patriotic Party because they have described the investigations into the Airbus scandal as shoddy. Findings by the OSP revealed that there was no evidence to show that all parties, including the former President John Dramani Mahama and his brother named in the Airbus scandal, indeed received bribes from employees and associates of Airbus. Well, the Special Prosecutor, Kisi Jabing, indicated that his outfit's investigation did not establish any criminality in the deal, though there was evidence of correspondence between parties involved. The MPP says the OSP work is lazy. Here's Haruna Mohammed, his Deputy General Secretary of the party. We'll listen to him and then come back for more reactions.
An individual commits a crime outside and you are gathering evidence. What stops you from taking the evidence from there? Is there any law in Ghana that says that you can pick a judgment of a competent court of jurisdiction in another jurisdiction to establish your case and prosecute your case in your country? There is no such law. And that is why I say that the OSP has done a lazy job. Because the OSP did a lazy job because you can't conclude by saying that because you don't have the facts at hand, you don't have all the facts at hand, hence you cannot prosecute that case. Did he go to ask for the judgment? What was the material used in the judgment in the UK?
And he says he did.
So he could have done that. He could have done that and get the document. Has he been denied the judgment? We know how a judgment is written. All the opinions of judges sitting on the panel will indicate their position and quote the necessary laws to back their decision. And he would have been able to establish those particular facts. But what is key in Ghana now is that we have an individual who has been confirmed in the UK, and then the special prosecutor has established the case that he is indeed the government official one, because he was the vice president. He later became president. What was he doing with a contract where it is confirmed by special prosecutor that he was sending emails directly by himself to Airbus as a company? Was he the contractor? Was he the contractor? He was not the contractor. So he has no business to be sending emails on such a contract. That is very dubious, very scandalous, very, very bad to the state of Ghana.
Well, here at Joy News, we've been looking into the OSP's findings, especially because the document is 25-page long and want to get to the issue, and his recommendation is quite key. Now, I'll bring in a former Auditor General, Daniel Dumoluvu. Thank you so much for your time here on Newsdeck to share your thoughts about this. Well, the concern by the NPP is that the OSP did a shoddy job. I'll get your reaction to that, but then let me just read to you a summary of some of the key findings the OSP said in his report. Now, he says that the former President Mahama and his brother Samuel Adam Foster were involved in the Airbus deal. However, the investigation conducted by the OSP found no evidence of corruption or bribery linked to their involvement. And this is where the back and forth is. But he goes on to say, and I'm just giving a summary because it's quite lengthy, that despite the lack of evidence of corruption, the familiarity and the relationship between Mahama and his brother Foster and their roles in the deal raise reasonable suspicion of improper conduct. And then he goes on to recommend that moving forward, the president and the vice president should be insulated from direct commercial dealings to avoid perceptions of corruption. Mr. Dumelovo, you have been an Auditor General for a while. What's your thoughts initially about the OSP's findings and his recommendation? You'd have to unmute for me to hear you clearly. We're just trying to establish connection to Yao Dumelovo. We're getting his thoughts and his reaction to the OSP work. Yesterday, if you were watching the Joy News channel, we brought you that breaking news that indeed the OSP has concluded its investigation into the Airbus scandal and exonerated President John Dramani Mahama from any wrongdoing. He says that his investigation found no evidence that Mr. Mahama and Foster, his brother, received or facilitated bribes in the Airbus scandal. Let me bring in Yao Dumelovo now. I'm hoping to have better connection to you. Tell me your initial reaction to this work done by the OSP. The NDC says it is a good job. The NPP says it's lazy and shoddy. But what's your initial reaction to that?
Thank you for the opportunity. It's funny that we would like to play politics with issues like this. And so you can hear from one party, it is good work done, another party, hey, shoddy work done. But I think issues of corruption and corruption-related activities is premised on evidence. If you help the OSP, he said he didn't get the evidence. So if anyone has the evidence, which the OSP could not find, they should give that evidence to him. He cannot just base upon a hearsay or perception and say, based upon that, I am going to prosecute you. So let me take the opportunity to say that I commend the OSP for the boldness of coming out with his position, especially when the investigation is at the instance or the request of the president himself. Many public officers may find it difficult to come out and say, you sent me to do this, I didn't find anything. Why I'm saying that is because the president has made it very clear earlier on at one of the bar conferences that there was issues related to corruption as far as this deal was concerned. So I think I commend the...
We seem to be losing connection to you. You'd have to position rightly. I hope I have better connection to him now. Please make your point. Dr. Yao Dumelovo, you have to position rightly for me to hear your thoughts. If you just tuned in, we're discussing the OSP's findings. Yesterday, he said that his investigations had exonerated John Dramani Mahama from the Airbus scandal. He said his investigations did not find any evidence that proved that indeed there was bribery, corruption in that case. But let's listen to Mustafa Gbande. He is Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. They've been also sharing their thoughts about the OSP's work, and their reaction to this was on the polls yesterday with Samuel Kojo-Brace. Let's listen to that, and then we'll come back. Hopefully, we'll have better connection to Yao Dumelovo then.
What is very important here is that President Mahama stand exonerated, cleaned by the special prosecutor. We all know that both in the UK and in the US, there was nothing substantial. There was no culpability against him. But what happened here in Ghana was a politically motivated propaganda, and they are standing to use that propaganda again, which has fallen flat on the floor. It has fallen flat for lack of evidence, fallen flat for lack of merit, fallen flat because If you look at the people who intend to even use that, to hang on that, they are worse. If a relative engaged in business whilst you're in government was a crime, President Akufo-Addo should have been publicly executed. Publicly. Because as for him, he's worse. We've never had a president who have syndicated family takeover of government like he did. He didn't just, Ken Ofori-Atta didn't just have a company that did business. He is a relative of the president, who was our finance minister, under whom President Akufo-Addo and his children siphoned state money through contracts that have yet been established by the Auditor General. So these things are not political conversations. This is what the Auditor General have said.
Well, an anti-corruption campaigner, Vitus Azeem, also shared his reaction to this yesterday. Let's listen to it.
If the special prosecutor has found that there's no basis to go further with this case and has exonerated them, that should be the end of this matter.
Okay.
Unless the government wants to take it up with a higher authority. In which case, I don't know which higher authority, investigative authority would then take it to. So as for me, I think that maybe it will have disappointed a number of people, or some people, especially in the ruling NPP. But that is the ruling, and I think we should accept it the way it has come. It is possible that the UK used a certain law to find that there was something wrong. But even the UK has not come after these people. And the Office of Special Prosecutor, they don't use that law or that procedure. You might have talked about the conflict of interest. And there are instances of conflict of interest. Either actual conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest, and perceived conflict of interest. And so, maybe there was potential conflict of interest because they were brothers and they were involved in the transaction, or even perceived people from outside viewing it as a conflict of interest.
We're still working the lines to re-establish connection to Yao Demelevo. He's a former Auditor General, and he was to share his thoughts on us on the proceedings so far. The OSP yesterday told us that investigations conducted into the Airbus Scandal exonerated John Dramani Mahama. So we're looking into that. We'll re-establish connection to him and then get into the details. But away from that, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is asking stakeholders in the road infrastructure, provision industry to critically evaluate the opportunities in the financing models for funding road construction projects. Now, this, he says, would go a long way to bridge the huge financing gap within the road construction sector. This call follows the New Patriotic Party's flag-bearer stance for a broad-based road tolling system that would include the wealthy in the country. Dr. Bawumia opines that the current tolling architecture is bad and that it would also affect the less affluent in communities. And he wants to rope in the wealthier. Let's listen to him and we'll come back for some analysis on this.
I would like to also make a suggestion that you could consider. Some may say it is provocative, but I think that when we are looking at innovative ways of financing and we say, well, this has to go to the private sector, tolling is, we say tolls as right now designed in many countries. The tolls, you pay specific tolls at particular points. So you're going on the Accra-Tema motorway, you get a toll booth over there. You go to Kasua, there's a toll booth over there. But it's my view is that we need, if we are going into tolling, we need to think about broad-based tolling. The current architecture that we have in tolling really tends to exclude even the wealthier parts of the population. So if I live in cantonments, East Legon, Ridge, which are the high-end neighborhoods, I will not see a toll. But if I live in Kaswa or somewhere else, I'm likely to meet a toll on the way. There seems to be an inequity in tolling. And I believe that we should look at broad-based tolling. Well, why shouldn't everybody pay? When we put taxes on fuel, we looked at some modeling about a year ago, some modeling on tolling as we were looking at the issue of tolling. I mean, we looked at the current toll revenue as before we abolished the tolls. They were about 70 million Ghana cedis a year. And we said, okay, what if everybody paid? So you put a tax on fuel, for example, 30 pesos or whatever. What if you move, you pay, right? If you don't move, you don't pay. And if everybody pays, you could generate about 2 billion Ghana cedis a year compared to 70 million, right? So that was the thinking. And I think that we should be thinking about methods that we could make the tolling more broad-based, and then we all contribute to it, and then the revenue will be much higher. So if you can find a way to do this digitally or whatever, we can do it. I mean, but the whole thinking for me is there's an inequity in tolling, that some people don't have to bother, but those are the neighborhoods with the best roads, but they don't contribute, right? So you collect from the poorer areas and do the roads in the richer areas. So anyway, as I said, it's a little provocative, so you can think about it as you discuss, but I believe in broad-based tolling, and we should look.
Well, let's analyze this. Joining me now is Professor Michael Ayamga. He's an applied economist at the West African Center for Sustainable Rural Development. Thank you for joining us here on Newsdesk. First of all, you've listened to the Vice President. Is it possible to have such a road tolling system?
Yes, thank you. Good morning to our viewers. I'm sitting here smiling because the Vice President has a tendency of coming to the party very late and projecting ideas that are very old or things that they have rejected as new innovations. And I particularly feel very vindicated for his stance now, because I remember in 2021, particularly on the 23rd of November, 2021, when they were muting the idea of this e-levy and talking about replacing it with the road toll, I suggested, without any equivocation, that we needed to expand our road tolling system to include everybody. And at the time, I suggested that we could place a fixed amount on every vehicle and charge this annually when they go to renew their roadworthiness certificate. What that was going to do was rope in vehicles that never went through toll booths and people who had multiple vehicles that they just renew and pack them and were not using them. So that we'll end up actually roping in the wealthy and then leaving the poor who are struggling to feed with the little remittances that their families send to them. In 2021, I was thinking about this and I shared it with all of them. And as usual, across networks and media outlets. And that was largely perceived as some lame idea. And so I'm particularly excited that 2 years on or 3 years on, the Vice President is touting that as an innovation. And that is rather coming to the party really late after the e-levy has wreaked havoc on households and on poor households. And after you have increased the taxes, and you are now seeing something that I suggested as the way to go to improve our tax and revenue mobilization, you put it back. I expected to be given some credit anyway. As a scholar, we don't get paid well, as I always say. So when we are solving problems, we need to be acknowledged. And I'm particularly I'm happy that the Vice President didn't reference me in that particular discourse. The problem is that the language and the description, everything is just as I pointed out. And I'm particularly not happy that the Vice President plagiarized my idea and didn't credit me. But it's better late than never. If they are willing to reverse the e-levy and then replace it with this broad-based road tool that I suggested years ago, it will broaden our tax net. The burden will be placed on people who won't even realize that if somebody is to pay 100 Ghana cedis in addition for owning a vehicle for as road tolls nationally, annually, I don't think that is going to cause any problem. And when we take off the e-levy, we are going to offer some massive relief to the poor people of this country who have to part with the little they get from their relatives all over. So, yes, I'm for it, but it should replace the e-levy.
So it's feasible. It can work. It's an idea that can work if implemented.
It's feasible. It's feasible. It can work. It should be done. But at this point, the masses are already burdened. And if you are adding it to the e-levy, you are going to burden consumers and market women who pay vehicle fares and the rest the more. So yes, it will help us expand our revenue mobilization, but there should be a carrot for the general populace, especially those living at the margins. We need to give them some incentive. I propose this idea as an alternative to the crippling electronic levy, and it should be taken off and then replaced with this.
Looking at fundamentals as we speak, do you think that this economy can be revived within the period some of these political parties are promising us?
The challenge here is what happens after we have concluded our debt treatment and we have reached the point where we have to start paying our debts. And if you look at what is happening in the economy, we are not making enough strides to be able to resume the full responsibility of servicing our debts without turning back experiencing. So what I want to say here is that the reason the CD is still falling, the reason inflation is crawling down and not actually falling much faster is because people are weighing their expectations against the end of time when we have to start servicing our debts. When the domestic debt treatment, that moratorium, all those things expire and we have to resume the real servicing of our debt, you realize that we do not have that capacity. And market actors are simply looking at taking these factors into consideration and not flinching. And so that's why we are not seeing any significant movement in the fundamentals. It appears they are stable. The next day they are back to where they were. It appears we are turned the corner. The next day we are back there. It's because the future is not that clear for the actors, and that is why we are not seeing that progress.
Thank you, Prof, for your time here on News Desk. Let's do some other stories now. The Coalition of Concerned Teacher Trainees in the Ashanti region is demanding a temporary closure of the colleges of education across the country following the strike by their teachers. The Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana boycotted their classrooms after government reneged on its promise to implement the arbitral award orders. The students say the industrial action is adversely impacting their academic progress and mental health. There's more in this report by Burma Kofi Dawson.
Classrooms in all the 46 colleges of education across the country remain empty. The Colleges of Education Teachers Association has since June 14 embarked on an industrial action seeking the government's implementation of outstanding compulsory arbitration awards. The 8-week-old strike has stalled academic progress and adversely affected students. The teacher trainees who are bearing the brunt of the impasse are left stranded. The coalition of concerned teacher trainees says the strike has left the students stranded and affecting their mental well-being. Opokudia Manuel is the convener of the group.
As a result of this strike action, we teacher trainees and teaching staffs of colleges of education are facing with an unprecedented crisis and misgivings. Our educational journey as trainees is at a standstill, and future of teachers' education and Ghana's development is at risk. The ongoing strike has left teacher trainees of the 46 colleges of education in chaos, stranded and uncertain about our future. Without our tutors, access to relevant course outlines and materials to even attempt self-study has become extremely difficult. The financial burden is affecting our mental health and well-being. We urgently call on the government, stakeholders and well-meaning Ghanaians to help resolve this impasse.
The group is demanding a temporary shutdown of their schools until an urgent resolution is reached.
If government cannot resolve this issue immediately, we demand that the colleges of education should be closed and students be allowed to return home, since it has been more than 21 days without students engaging with their tutors.
The students are also worried over the non-payment of 6 months trainee allowances, which support their cost of living.
What I have right now is our student allowances. Last semester, that was level 300 semester, they were supposed to give us a 4 months allowances, which is almost 1,600 cedis. But as we speak right now, they have made payments of 400 cedis to our various accounts. So we are calling upon Dr. Baud Maumia to also attend to us, so that in this time of hardship, we can also at least get something to eat.
So we hope this message goes far. Barry Makofi Dawson, Ashanti Region, for Joy News.
The health authorities in the Techiman municipality of the Bono East region are worried about the increase of new HIV cases recorded in the area. Municipal HIV coordinator Momuni Mohammed says the prevalence of HIV/AIDS, particularly among young people, has increased within the municipality, recording a total of 925 new positive cases in 2023. And Sabit has more in this report.
The prevalence of HIV/AIDS amongst adolescents and young people is an issue of ongoing concern. It has been established that adolescents and young people represent a growing share of people living with HIV worldwide, while declining amongst all other age groups. AIDS-related deaths among adolescents have increased over the past decade. Here in the Techiman municipality, a total of 15,227 persons were tested in the year 2023, out of which 925 tested positive for the virus. Momuni Mohammed is the municipal HIV coordinator.
Looking at the situation in Techiman, the current year or the last year, 2023, looking at the raw figures that we have tested, or the fight, how we are doing so far, we are able to test about 15,227 people who voluntarily came to the hospitals, non-pregnant women. Either they were suspected by the clinician, or they came to the hospital themselves, or we went to the community to test them. 15,227 were tested. And out of this figure, 925 were positives. So when you look at the positivity rate here, out of the number we have tested and the number that is positive, 6.1% were positives.
The youth, according to Momuni Mohammed, constitute majority of the number of positive cases recorded. This is largely due to their sexually active nature.
The youth, let's say they constitute from 15 to 39 years. The disease is very prevalent among this age group because they are the sexually active. And HIV is mostly transmitted through this medium.
But why is it necessary for one to know his or her HIV status? Municipal Director of Health Services, Dr. Kusi Fosuhene, says the move would go a long way to help prolong one's life as well as protect the person's family.
Knowing your status is not only about you, it's about protecting yourself, protecting your partner, sometimes even protecting your unborn child. For example, if it's a woman who knows their status, they'll be put on the antiretroviral medications. When they get pregnant, we even change the medications for them so that we prevent in utero transmission, so that the mother doesn't give it to that unborn generation. So these are some of the advantages of knowing your status.
He was, however, quick to caution the general public, particularly the youth, to adhere to the safety protocols and avoid having unprotected sex to stay protected from all sexually transmitted infections.
Apart from HIV-1, HIV-2, we also have hepatitis B, hepatitis C, very common sexually transmitted liver viral infections or diseases, which also I'm sure a lot of people know about hepatitis, so be careful. So maybe you've been even lucky, you are only on one. Because when you're on 1 and 2, even your regimen, your drug regimen may have to change. And then you have hepatitis on top of it. So yes, we know. Some people feel that, oh, once I have it there now, I've been declared, so me too, I'll go unprotected. Yes, you never know who the next customer may even be worse than you.
Anna Sabit, Joy News, Techiman.
The acting director at Health Promotion Division of the Ghana Health Service, Mabel Asafo, has attributed Ghana's inability to tackle basic but critical health areas to inadequate private sector support. She said areas like maternal and child health care, malaria, sexual reproduction health, infectious diseases, among others, continue to remain areas that need to be promoted among citizens to ensure that it is well resourced. There's more in this report.
The Ghana Health Services call comes amidst the sector's indicator showing underperformance in promoting good health practice among Ghanaians. At the annual meeting of the National Interagency Coordination Committee for Health Promotion, the Acting Director of Health Promotion, Mabel Asafo, highlighted crucial health areas in Ghana that need urgent health attention.
Those are being highlighted because when you look at some of our indicators, those are the ones that need to be beefed up in terms of indicator and how people are performing within those areas. And these are malaria, wash, maternal and child health. The wash is water, sanitation and health. And then sexual reproductive health. A lot of teenage pregnancies are being recorded and other things. Sexual STIs are all being recorded elsewhere. And so we are looking at some of these indicators to build it up to make sure that they get better within the health sector. And so these are areas that is of concern to the Ghana Health Service. In the about 7 areas, infectious diseases including COVID-19 and other emerging and re-emerging diseases are all part of the areas that we are targeting to make sure that we send messages to people so that they will adopt healthy behaviors. I must say that this is something that we started earlier on, but we did not engage private sector much, and so we did not succeed. So going forward, we think that when private sector come on board, it brings about sustainability. And so it's on that ground that we are bringing on board private sector. So
meanwhile, the chairperson of ICC, Professor Elsie Fakofman, reiterated the need for partnership between the private sector and government towards promoting healthy living across the country.
For a long time, there have been a lot of activities around health by different stakeholders in Ghana. Everybody doing something, which is good. But the activities have not been coordinated. So everybody is doing something. We are not making the best use of our scarce resources. If we can all work together, we can have better results. And so that's what this coordinating committee is about. One key thing that we also intend to do, which we have started from the MOU we saw, is to bring in the private sector. It's one of the key activities we are supposed to do, bring in the private sector to work with the Ghana Health Service and the Health Promotion Division to propagate the strategy that we have in place and to make sure that everybody is on board and doing the same things, saying the same things, so that we have a harmonious message that we are presenting to the Ghanaian public.
7 private sector organizations signed a memorandum of understanding with the ICCHP to help promote healthy living in the country.
Well, let's take you now live. IDEC is holding a press conference. They've been engaging the EC on this forum. Let's listen in.